Okay, welcome to a extensive video on how to produce a crane head in survival mode. Um, as a little bit of a disclaimer, I am in fact building this in creative mode. This is only to save time, so you don't have to grab parts from inventory and build it out one piece at a time. Um, but I've built this using methods similar to this several times in survival mode and haven't run into any real problems. So some of you have probably seen my other video in regards to the functionality of the crane heads. We're not going to go into that now. This is just how to build it because it's using pistons and rotors that you can't fill out with a projector. So you'd have to put it together by hand. This method is kind of a hybrid. There's two main components you can build using a projector, and you have to fill in the gaps manually. So this demonstration is going to demonstrate, obviously, how to put all that together. So, as you can see, I've already set up the projection, aligned it, everything's all set to go. We're now going to go to the build bot, which another design of mine I have over here just for fabrication. It's the tool I use to put the crane head together. It's kind of a stepping stone to get there, at least for me. So, it's important, obviously, that the merge block on the platform is on, as well as on the blueprint. Of course, I make sure that's the case all the time. When building blueprints, that is. The other important fact is that the merge block on both the blueprint and the platform need to match as far as ownership goes. The ownership of all my blueprints is always nobody, so while you can own the entire platform, the merge block needs to be set to nobody as the ownership so that the merge block will connect. Otherwise, as soon as the merge block is complete, it just pops right off and you can't build the rest of the unit. Now we're going to run into a little bit of an issue as soon as we get to the antenna on this thing, because it's going to kind of override the antenna that's built on the platform. So don't be alarmed when that happens. Obviously it takes a little bit longer to put this thing together when you are in fact doing it in survival mode. Looks like it didn't stop me from using the build bot when it's done here. There it goes. There it goes. Alright. So, this is something we had to do anyway. I typically don't run into this problem as well because I don't build it from the platform on which I'm projecting it. Or, I should say, I don't control the build bot from that same location. But this is something we had to do anyway because we need to dock it after the fact. So, I'm just going to bump this up to 1,000. I don't really need to, but just in case. Enable broadcasting, turn on the block, and set the ownership to me. Then you can go back in here and you can see the build bot again. And I'm just going to do a once over. It's important that all the components are built, obviously, before we pop it off the stand. Looks like it's all set to go. What you also need to do is, in survival mode, you need to charge the battery. There are some reactors on there, but they don't really give you the same sort of thrust. This is going to be really quick. I'm not sure if it's creative mode or just we have so much power it charges up so quickly, but we're already fully charged, at which point we can unlock that, and then we can pop them. Oh, you know what? We need one other thing first. In creative mode, you'd need to lay down the framework on these and then build it with a build bot, but again, we're in creative just to get the speed we're looking for. Alright. So once those are in place, that's going to allow you to lock into the well, for me, I feel it gives it better stability. You can lock with the connector, obviously, on the base, but the landing gear kind of holds it on there a little bit better. You get a wobble with the connector that I don't like. So once you've got that all set, double check the battery. We are charged. It's got 5 hours. That's more than enough time. Although the way we're going to use it's probably going to drop that time down real quick. And we just cut that, and we're already there. Then of course we need to turn on the thrusters. Doesn't seem like any of the groups are moving anymore. So I'm going to have to kind of turn them on by hand. And where's the gyroscope? And then you basically pilot the rear end onto the connector. I have one over here. Line the X up with one of the lights, and you're pretty much set to go. Once it lands you into place, then you can lock. And again, my groups are gone. I think this is a new development. I haven't built it, so it's one of the recent patches. So, gotta do a couple things here. Pistons. And the landing gear. I'm just keeping the naming convention the same. I named everything Cranehead 2 because this is actually the second variant. I got one of the names right, so it's already there. Alright, so turning on the auto lock and retracting. That locks on, at which point you're pretty much good to go. And then I normally put the battery on to recharge, and it's good to shut off all those other it's actually on here. Even if I turn this off, you still have the connection through the connector, so it's not a big deal. This way, you can save the power of all those thrusters being on by removing that. By turning that all off. Once it's locked, you're basically, you know, going to be moving wherever the connector is. I mean, the ideal is to hook it up to a ship with a large inventory so that you can use the inventory from the ship as a base to build off all your other stuff. Alright, from here, we're going to build the connection arms to the armature to the main unit here. And that's basically just putting all this in place. Again, this would be framework. You'd be putting the frames in place, and then using the build bot to build out all this section. So obviously we have one corner at the base and then another advanced rotor. Advanced rotor is how we get the parts through. Obviously regular rotors aren't going to cut it. So then, so an elbow, advanced, another elbow, and then each arm I put 3 extensions. And then it's a corner, and then an advanced. And there's 3 junctions. The last one that's the a little different, but the first 2 junctions exactly the same. Okay, so this one, a little bit different. You put the 3 extensions on, and then we put another advanced rotor on the end. So that's kind of the wrist of the crane head. We put a corner, and then we put another advanced rotor on here. See how that's looking right there. Alright, for the last little piece, it's the crane head. And that's pretty much just about perfect right there. So you want, how I do it, I put the X facing up and then the minus sign, the plus sign on the top, minus side facing out away from the arm, and that's going to match up with the crane head itself. So At this point, we got to find that particular projector and then assign the crane head, the head piece of the module to that section. Let's see if this is going to be the right one. Okay, so that's not the one. Crane head module. Yep, that's right. Again, this is a little tricky. To make it easy, you kind of really need to assign the projector keys to everything so you can grab it on the fly, change everything on the fly. So that's what I'm going to do. Now you can go in there and futz with this in the menu. It's just more trouble than it's worth. Alright, so now that I have that all set, we just have to get everything aligned, which can be a little tricky. Yep, just gotta flip that over. Yeah, it's kind of at a hard angle to reach here. Alright, so I need to go down. Okay. Just need to go. There we go. Perfectly aligned. Just regenerate the image just to be sure. Okay. Now that that's in place, go back to the build bot and finish off the build. And that's pretty much going to get everything set up. One of the nice things is having the projection is all the keys on the actual crane head will be already set up. Well, hopefully. I mean, now that it looks like groups aren't really being assigned correctly on this particular build, that might be a little bit different. I found in survival mode the remote control and camera modules that I have on here take a little bit of time to build. It has to build the remote first before the cameras get into place, so it has a little bit of confusion over the overlapping part. But you hold your welders on it long enough, it gets there. It's also important in projection building, you may know this from trying it yourself, that some of these items that are like cling to the wall like a keypad or whatnot, they actually take a full block of space though. So if you have your welder right up next to it, it might not start its build. But you got to pull it off just so the box that would normally be around it when you're placing it, that the welders are actually out of that box, so that it'll know that it'll think that you're not inside the actual projection. It doesn't let you build something from inside the projection. So anyway, this is the basic way of putting this all together. This is pretty much done right now. You could be already attached to a ship or whatnot, and you'd be ready to go. There's probably some fine-tuning you need to do within the controls, and I'm going to get in there just to see what everything is set up for, but yeah, so right there. So as you can see, hey, it looks like the group made it this time. So you can see I have the thrusters on now, and if I go to the camera, 3 is always forward. You can see from the camera angle here. Oh, that's one of the things that normally happens. Does it have, let's see, grind, well, yep, that's pretty much the same. All the rotors tend to be on. You need to be off with no braking torque so that you can free float and just drag the piping along back behind you. After playing with the crane for a bit, you'll notice that there's a little bit of what they call programming, where you have to it has a hinge here, so you have to move this way or that way. But you get used to it pretty quickly. And then, for me, the advantages just outweigh the disadvantages as far as, you can bring it over and basically weld on anything, and you don't have to worry about, where you would with a big ship. If you had a huge ship, you have huge engines, and they just melt holes in everything you're trying to build. So with this, you can really, have the large ship inventory, and yet you can come over here and just build whatever on your stand, or way out there, wherever you need to be repairing or building stuff. So anyway, this has been somewhat of an informal but I hope helpful video on how to build a crane head. Crane heads aren't really easy to build without a projection, and it takes a little time to put together, but it's, I think, well worth the effort. It's helped me a lot in my production. I have another video, obviously, you can show you some of the benefits of how to work with one of these crane head units. So, as always, send me feedback if you have any thoughts or ideas about how we can make things better. Alright, talk to you later.